In 1957, an Appalachian widow fed 4 children on $2 a week. She baked a dessert using only water and flour, a dish her children later described as a royal feast. Other survival rations from this era included chipped beef, carried home by returning soldiers, and spreadable canned meats, repurposed from pantry staples. These rations were engineered for one primary function: survival. They sustained families at American kitchen tables that once seated 6 and now seat 1. The sugar sandwich served as a baseline calorie source for children growing up in the shadow of the Great Depression. Mothers took 2 slices of plain white bread, priced at 16 cents a loaf, and coated them with softened butter. They distributed coarse white sugar directly over the fat, creating a dense, high-calorie layer. The entire preparation cost under 5 cents. This provided a sensory clash of soft bread, cool butter, and crystalline sugar crunching between the teeth. The children consuming this ration remained unaware of their economic reality. Today, modern brunch menus rebrand this as artisanal cinnamon sugar brioche and charge $8. Working-class grandmothers engineered it for pennies, relying on basic commodity ingredients. Another staple, often referred to as poor man's cereal, demonstrated the stark mechanics of making do in rural America. A handful of saltine crackers was crumbled into a bowl and submerged in cold milk. For many working-class families, this bowl was the sole barrier between their children and malnutrition. It supplied bare survival mechanics, carbohydrates from the crackers alongside fat and protein from the milk. There was no bright packaging or cartoon mascot, only the quiet sound of a spoon scraping the bottom of a bowl. Modern Kraft cereal subscriptions charge $40 a month for manufactured nostalgia, packaging the same basic carbohydrates. Crackers and milk cost a few cents and functioned with brutal honesty. When local bakeries were financially inaccessible, American mothers converted the cheapest pantry staples into high-calorie treats. White bread was dropped into a toaster, pulled out hot, and immediately smothered in butter until it melted into the crumb. A heavy application of cinnamon and sugar followed. This cost less than 5 cents a serving. Yet for lower-income children, it functioned as the definitive sweet provision of the decade. The residual heat caramelized the sugar just enough to alter the texture. Decades later, commercial cereal conglomerates co-opted this free domestic technique, packaged it in cardboard, and charged $5. Mid-century mothers achieved the exact same result without industrial processing, using nothing but the ambient heat of a toaster. In the rural South, a jar of Duke's mayonnaise and a loaf of bread guaranteed that children would not go hungry. Families stretching every dime frequently selected Miracle Whip simply because it priced lower than real mayonnaise. 2 slices of bread were slathered heavily with the condiment pressed together. This represented the most basic form of sustenance, a ration so simple a child could assemble it alone while their parents worked extended shifts. A mayonnaise sandwich shocks modern palates, which are accustomed to complex flavor profiles and varied textures. Yet for a boomer child in an empty kitchen, it provided true independence and the physiological comfort of secured calories. By the 1950s, a packet of Kool-Aid powder cost exactly 5 cents, establishing it as a household staple across America. Children bypassed the standard pitcher of water entirely. They poured granular sugar directly into the small paper envelope, shook the mixture, and applied it straight to a wet finger. This was an act of resourcefulness born from strictly limited options, functioning as a secret indulgence hidden from parents. The commercial candy industry observed this primitive 5-cent method and constructed a multi-billion-dollar empire selling fun dips and sour straws. Corporations monetized the exact behavioral adaptations that working-class kids developed on neighborhood sidewalks, proving the commercial viability of scarcity-driven inventions. When actual fruit was completely out of reach, frontier cooks and Depression-era mothers engineered methods to deceive the human palate. They boiled a heavy syrup of sugar, cream of tartar, and lemon juice, then poured it carefully over crumbled Ritz crackers baked inside a flaky pie crust. The human brain filled in the missing apple aroma entirely from the cinnamon and sugar flavor cues. It was an absolute triumph of ingenuity over scarcity. Nabisco recognized the psychological effectiveness of this recipe and printed it on Ritz cracker boxes from the 1930s until 1993. A homemade mock apple pie cost about 25 cents to produce in the 1950s. A slice of artisanal apple pie at a modern bakery currently runs $6 to $8. Historical domestic kitchens often outsmarted modern food laboratories, achieving sensory replication with zero actual fruit. Fried bologna operated as the undisputed workhorse of the 1950s working-class lunchbox. Bologna remained one of the cheapest processed meats available. A thick slice was scored at the edges with a knife to prevent curling under heat, then thrown into a hot skillet until it blistered. It was served smoking hot between 2 slices of white bread. Frying the meat elevated a mundane protein into a high-value meal, earning it the universal title of the poor man's steak. Today, Upscale gastropubs rename Italian bologna as mortadella and charge $14. Working mothers called it supper, and it cost exactly 1 dime per sandwich. Pimento cheese served as the ultimate bridge between rural poverty and celebration in the American South. Shredded cheddar cheese was mixed with mayonnaise and an inexpensive jar of drained, diced pimentos. It was cheap, resisted spoilage without refrigeration for hours on a hot day, and yielded enough volume to feed a massive crowd. This formulation democratized snacking entirely across class lines. Modern specialty shops now market artisanal pimento cheese for $12 a tub. The original iteration cost 20 cents to feed an entire family, proving that culinary dignity did not require wealth. Preparation of deviled eggs required extensive manual labor, signifying a high-effort domestic provision. Cooks hard-boiled the eggs, halved them, and extracted the yolks. These yolks were mashed with mayonnaise and mustard, piped carefully back into the albumin, and finished with a heavy application of paprika. This process functioned as a display of domestic skill. Modern restaurants add truffle oil and charge $12 a plate for this exact preparation. Historically, grandmothers served them at zero additional cost on a cut glass platter. These handmade domestic practices did not fade away through natural cultural evolution. In 1953, the Swanson Corporation introduced the TV dinner to the American market. By 1954, the company had sold over 10 million units. Television ownership in the United States accelerated from just 9% of households in 1950 to 64% by 1955. Corporations deployed multi-million-dollar marketing campaigns directed at American mothers, framing domestic cooking from scratch as an unnecessary burden. This deliberate commercial strategy physically relocated families from the kitchen table to the sofa. Food conglomerates effectively dismantled the traditional family dinner, repackaging and selling it back as an expensive frozen meal in an aluminum tray. Before manufactured plastic snack bags monopolized grocery aisles, homemade cereal mixes anchored American living room gatherings. A mother combined dry cereal, mixed nuts, and pretzel sticks, tossed the mixture in melted butter seasoned with Worcestershire sauce, and subjected it to a slow bake for 1 hour. A high-volume homemade batch cost under $1 to produce. In 1985, General Mills appropriated this domestic recipe and enclosed it in a commercial bag. They converted a thrifty household formula into a $400 million commercial product category. In the rural South and Appalachia, strict calorie preservation protocols resulted in cornbread submerged in milk. Domestic cooks took cold, leftover cornbread from the previous evening's supper, crumbled the dense structure into a tall glass, and poured cold buttermilk over the top. This method rehydrated dry, stale bread into a dense, high-calorie meal. Modern upscale restaurants now serve deconstructed cornbread appetizers for $10. For the agrarian families who engineered it, this preparation was strictly a calorie recovery mechanism utilized when no other food remained. For German-American households, spreadable liver sausage served as a daily nutritional staple reflecting European dietary habits. Individuals applied Liverwurst in a thick layer directly across saltine crackers. This product maintained a permanent position in the deli case of virtually every grocery store in America. An entire family could consume this snack for approximately 30 cents. As the American palate progressively shifted away from organ meats, Liverwurst disappeared from mainstream commercial shelves. Today, specialty shops market the identical concept as French country pâté for $25 a pound. They did not alter the fundamental composition of the meat. They simply applied a premium European classification. During the 1950s, many households in Appalachia and the Deep South maintained a tin coffee can adjacent to the primary stove. Every residual drop of bacon, grease, or cooking fat was systematically saved and guarded against spoiling. When caloric deficits occurred between meals, this cooled, savory fat was spread directly onto a slice of white bread and heavily salted. This mechanism represented a culture where discarding edible fat was viewed as a severe failure of resource management. Every single calorie held measurable biological value. Presently, trendy dining establishments serve roasted bone marrow on toast as a $16 appetizer. The modern restaurant industry utilizes the exact same biological fat formulation decades later. When agricultural yields from summer gardens exceeded immediate family consumption, the tomato sandwich emerged as a daily rural protocol. A thick layer of mayonnaise was applied to white bread, followed by heavy slices of vine-ripened tomato and a high-sodium application of salt and pepper. The entire assembly cost less than 10 cents in raw materials. For populations engaging in heavy agricultural labor, this sandwich functioned as direct caloric compensation for months of tending crops in extreme heat. Modern urban cafes now charge $16 for heirloom tomato toasts finished with imported sea salt. The historical summer sandwich required zero financial transaction for families cultivating their own land. When pantry inventories reached zero and children requested sugar, American mothers engineered synthetic alternatives. They secured plain saltine crackers, applied whatever butter remained in the icebox, and coated the surface in granulated sugar. A full plate of these substitute items cost under 5 cents in total material. This functioned as a psychological strategy, converting base carbohydrates into a simulated reward mechanism. The children consuming them rarely registered the absence of baked dough. A commercial package of processed Oreos currently retails for $5. The domestic 1950s equivalent required only 3 basic ingredients to achieve the identical psychological effect. Stale bread pudding originated from a strict domestic protocol forbidding the disposal of hardened bread heels. When the end pieces of a loaf calcified, a cook cubed the scraps and submerged them in a hydrating mixture of milk, eggs, sugar, and vanilla. The saturated mass was baked until the internal structure reset. For an estimated 15 cents, this thermal process rehabilitated expiring food into a dense, warm provision. It functioned as a maximum efficiency salvage operation. Today, New Orleans dining establishments charge $16 for artisanal bread pudding saturated with bourbon sauce. The original formulation specifically targeted bread that was otherwise too hard for human consumption. Peanut butter maintained a position as an ultra-low-cost protein staple, pricing at mere pennies per ounce. Cooks utilized a stalk of inexpensive celery, filled the natural biological groove with smooth peanut butter, and aligned dried raisins across the top axis. The assembled snack required an investment of about 1 dime. It operated as a mid-century behavioral modification tactic, designed to increase vegetable consumption among juveniles by simulating a toy. Today, high-end cocktail bars serve stuffed celery appetizers for $10. The original iteration was engineered exclusively for children at a fraction of a cent per calorie. For populations unable to secure premium cold cuts from a butcher, a small white can featuring a Red Devil logo functioned as a high-status protein substitute. Domestic cooks extracted Underwood deviled ham and applied the meat directly onto saltine crackers. The entire tin required an investment of roughly 15 to 20 cents. This preparation operated as a primary component of working-class lunchboxes and outdoor meals long before commercial deli meats reached mass affordability. Today, specialty grocery stores market potted meats and rillettes for $18. The modern retail industry sells the exact same spreadable meat classification under premium European terminology. The underlying mechanics of these meals extend beyond simple poverty reduction. Historical analysis reveals that mid-century mothers operated as highly effective logistical managers. When millions of men returned from the battlefields of World War II, they imported military survival protocols directly into the American suburban kitchen. The women managing these households applied identical battlefield efficiency to maintaining their own dependence. They systematically converted low-cost carbohydrates into high-energy fuel. This was not a degradation of culinary standards, but rather a calculated mastery of resource management under pressure. Before the invention and widespread adoption of the microwave oven, stovetop popcorn stood as the lowest cost snack ratio in America. A cook heated oil or lard in a covered pot, introduced inexpensive kernels, and maintained kinetic motion over the heat source until the thermal expansion ceased. Finished with melted butter and sodium, a maximum capacity bowl cost roughly 5 cents to produce. As televisions penetrated American living rooms throughout the 1950s, the airborne particulates of popping corn functioned as the biological signal for domestic gathering. Today, a commercial bag of microwave popcorn costs $2 and relies heavily on synthetic chemical flavorings. The mid-century iteration constructed the foundational American viewing habit for exactly 1 nickel. To achieve social signaling on a restricted budget, working-class households engineered the party cheese ball. Softened cream cheese was blended with shredded cheddar and dry spices, compressed into a sphere and encased in a layer of chopped nuts. The raw materials required an expenditure of 30 to 40 cents. Positioned in the center of a table alongside crackers, the structural presentation simulated high-end catering. This mechanism permitted lower-income demographics to host neighborhood gatherings and maintain social standing without financial ruin. Modern charcuterie boards currently feature artisanal fromage balls, priced at $20. The historical predecessor achieved the exact same visual impact using standard commodity dairy from the local corner store. Creamed chipped beef served as the most direct link between military deployment and civilian dietary habits. Cooks constructed a foundational white sauce utilizing butter, flour, and milk, introduced fragmented pieces of dried beef from a glass jar, and poured the dense mixture over toasted bread. Costing approximately 20 cents per batch, this ration was directly imported from military mess halls by returning veterans. For former soldiers, the dish functioned simultaneously as a psychological trigger of their service and a reliable source of caloric comfort. Today, upscale brunch establishments sell beef bechamel on artisan toast for $14. World War II veterans consumed the identical macronutrient profile as a standard Tuesday ration. When calorie density intersected with high sugar concentration, the Fluffernutter sandwich emerged as a primary juvenile staple. A slice of white bread received a heavy layer of inexpensive peanut butter on one hemisphere, and a coating of industrial marshmallow fluff on the opposing side. The assembly cost 10 cents to manufacture, yet the engineered combination of sweet and lipid profiles simulated a luxury dessert item. The biological response among juveniles in Massachusetts proved so overwhelming that the state government was forced to pass legislation limiting its frequency on public school lunch menus. High-end commercial bakeries now retail elevated marshmallow peanut butter toasts for $10. When household food budgets depleted prior to payday, domestic cooks deployed stovetop rice pudding to maximize carbohydrate yield. A small volume of low-cost rice was subjected to a prolonged simmer in milk. The addition of sugar, vanilla extract, and cinnamon, combined with continuous kinetic stirring, fractured the starches until the liquid thickened. For under 15 cents, a cook could physically expand a single cup of dry grain to sustain an entire family unit. Categorized economically as the poor man's dessert, the thermal properties and soft texture made it an ideal ration for individuals recovering from illness. It functioned as baseline biological nurturing when resources were severely constrained. Today, modern retail dessert shops rebrand this exact thermal process as artisanal rice pudding, charging $6 to $8 per serving. Before commercial food corporations standardized and packaged the loose meat sandwich, the Sloppy Joe operated as a highly efficient protein delivery system. Cooks browned commodity ground beef and simmered the protein with ketchup, mustard, brown sugar, and chili powder. The specific secondary snack application occurred 24 hours later. Cooks extracted the refrigerated leftover meat and deposited precise, measured amounts directly onto saltine crackers. This secondary utilization provided immediate satiety without requiring additional cooking fuel. By 1969, the industrial food sector commercialized this domestic staple through the launch of Hunt's Manwich. Currently, gourmet gastropubs market braised beef loose meat sliders for $16. Mid-century households achieved the identical caloric transfer simply by refusing to discard residual animal protein. When stripping away every standard structural ingredient associated with baking, the stark baseline of scarcity economics reveals the water pie. The formula contained 0 fruit, 0 eggs, and 0 milk. Facing entirely depleted pantry inventories, cooks still engineered a dessert simulation. They combined granulated sugar and milled flour as a binding agent. They poured tap water directly into an unbaked pie crust, introduced the dry mixture, applied whatever residual butter could be salvaged, and added vanilla extract. The application of oven heat forced the water and starches to set into a firm matrix. The literal name of the dish communicates the extreme parameters of its creation. It was the physical conversion of absolute scarcity into a psychological reward. A slice of manufactured pie at a modern bakery today requires a transaction of $5 to $8. The water pie required essentially zero financial capital, proving that structural baking did not strictly require commercial ingredients. These preparations functioned far beyond basic cost-cutting measures. They operated as the critical mechanisms of biological and psychological survival. They provided the infrastructure that allowed a demographic to maintain social dignity and physical health during periods of severe economic deprivation. This data confirms the extreme logistical efficiency of the individuals who operated cramped, high-temperature domestic kitchens. The protocol for preserving this data requires physical replication. Assemble one of these historical formulations this week. Construct a water pie, or apply cold buttermilk to crumbled cornbread. Consume the ration at a physical kitchen table, completely bypassing the television sofa. Process the calories slowly, observing the stark efficiency of the historical diet. Deposit a written record of your specific preparation in the data log below, and archive the survival strategies utilized by your own predecessors. This specific historical data must remain open source